car trip back home from the Natty. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna miss it, man. I've had a fun time. I want to talk about a few things in this video. Envy, real content, evolve, and why are we still blaming the breakers, guys? Envy. I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Envy is the number one sin in the hobby. Most of the anger, frustration, the bitterness, the drama that you will find in the hobby can be traced back to envy. People envy. It's human nature. Once you recognize that it's envy, it all starts to make sense. But there's so much envy in this hobby. So many people who just don't understand why he has that, or how can he do this, and how do these kids have these cards, or why does that guy have this? There's so much envy in this hobby. Let it go, man. And I'll tell you what proves it is that the people will go, well, just click what you love, right? Right? Well, that's true. You love someone else's. You're coveting someone else's stuff. You're envying it. Just go click what you want. I collected right here. I got the parallel bracelets from the National. That's my PC, baby. Envy, man. Ripping this hobby apart. Real people, real content. One thing I'll say, I think that makes me different. I'm 100% real. Like, I'm very real. I just had a little exchange with somebody calling me ignorant or a fool or something like that. Look, I'm not ignorant. I try things. I listen to other people. I go to other perspectives. I want to learn, man. I love information. What's up, John? Thanks for being here, man. But the comments there, real. Let me give you an example. I realized, okay, back in 2020 when the content thing started, we were all real people figuring our way out in the hobby. Most of the people really did not know the hobby, right? I think that's part of my problem. In the beginning, I was kind of like, I won't say envious. I maybe envied their naive approach to the hobby, right? Most of these people, I said this to me yesterday, half the people at the National this year never went to the National before 2020. I guarantee you that. Maybe even higher, right? And I say that because if you have the knowledge, the experience, a lot of these things will start to make sense for you. Real, let me go back to real. Great video from Neo. I met up with Dustin. Dustin and I had a good chat at the Sports Card Madness show. There's a video Neo posted of me giving Dustin a card. Why? Because that's real. And let me explain this to you guys. I really like Dustin. Dustin and I used to be friends back in 2020. We used to chat back and forth or exchange messages. He was doing his thing, I was doing mine. Somewhere between here and there, we went in different directions. I would argue that he went more corporate sponsor or whatever, and I stayed real. But people would argue, Z, well, now you're a breaker, so it's not important. But we evolved over time. But I like Dustin. I do. I like him. I like other people. I like the stuff they collect. I listen to them. I know Dustin's a Stranger Things guy, right? So I had this really cool Stranger Things card. It's a number 25, glam of Millie, what's her name? Bobby Brown, 11. It's a cool card. It has some value. It's short print, right? PSA 10 too, buddy. I had it graded. And I gave it to him as just a PC card for him. Because I know that's for him and his friends. I do that to a lot of other friends. I give them cards. I normally never, I won't say never, normally don't do it on camera. Right? It's not that I'm hiding that. It's that that's who I fucking really am. At the same time, I was listening to, and I ran into so many people. So I want to be careful here. What I realize is I say real things and I upset people, and then they get hurt by me, and then they block me, or I can't even explain it. Like the drama, it's like, I feel like I'm back in high school. But let me give you an example. I really tried very hard this week to get off the block list. I am on the block list for Sports Card Nonsense. Yes, they blocked me. I don't know when, recently, whatever. I spoke to everybody at Sports Card Nonsense. None of them know who blocked me, but my point to this, I was listening to Gio, who I like Gio. Today, he went live, and he was talking about the trade night last night, and he was talking about sports cards, and he made two comments that just really bothered me. First of all, he said I'd never been to a trade night at all until last night, which I thought was very interesting. And he made a comment that we need to get rid of all the breakers at the National and just put more tables in there. And I just thought to myself, I don't think this is really you, Gio. I think you're talking to the audience, and I don't blame you. I think, and I point to bring this up, I think a lot of people are talking to their audience. And that's probably why they have thousands of fucking viewers, and I don't. But why are you doing that? Like, first of all, Sports Card Nonsense, and let me wrap this in another way. Sports Card Nonsense is one group. There's the John Mangini and the YouTube collector community. There is, I'll call the Behind the Breaks guys. There's all these different communities. Most of them aren't even fucking aware of the other one, but they all think they're the only community in the world. I don't know. I'm going off tangent there. But my point to this, bring it back to real. Breakers. This is a perfect example. Gio, you went to the National back before 2020, right? I went to it in 2016, okay? Let me explain something. I went to it in 2016 because I was sports card breaking with latent sports cards, and I was picking up a bunch of hits and a couple cases of product that I won. So it's the first time I ever went to the National. I drove it to the National, and I went to the National in 2016 because as a customer of breaking, I went up there. Here's what I can tell you about that. It was the cricket conference. It was not very busy at all. It was very big. It, at the time in 2016, I can tell you that the audience of who they were really selling to was the individual collector, but mainly it was local card stores and breakers. It really was. You were really, like the National was targeting people in the business to provide more services. That's the way I kind of think of it. It wasn't targeting masses of people at the time. But in 2016 was one of the first early years, it wasn't the first year, but early years of the Breakers Pavilion. And I remember going there and I remember meeting with Leighton, and I'll be honest, it felt like it was weird. It's like you had the National, all these booths, and then in the corner you had like a Cubeville, little cubes that they set up so that the breakers could break in there with some type of privacy. What I can tell you then, and in 2018, which I did not go, but I just was active, breaking at the National sucked. Internet connectivity was terrible. You were kind of the redheaded stepchild. No one really liked the breaking part. People complained about it. Even the breakers found it difficult because they didn't have internet access. It was hard to bring stuff in there. It sucked. It was not very helpful. I say that because in 2021, after the National was closed by COVID and you had this huge demand for people, Whatnot steps in and Whatnot builds out the Breaker Pavilion. Now, I wasn't there in 2021, so I believe that's when it started. But in 2022 at AC, that's where the Breaker Pavilion grew. And that's where it is today, where you have this arena-like atmosphere and the big board and all the breaks. And it's cool, okay? Does everybody like that? No, I understand that. I'm not forcing it down anybody's throat. If you don't like it, walk around it. Leave it alone. Don't touch it. But I want to point out something. Is it a shock to you guys that in 2016, the National and the Hobby attendance was pretty low? And then here we are in 2025. Attendance is skyrocketing, probably the highest ever. And I'm going to tell you a secret, guys. Breaking's big. It's huge. It's very, very big. Whether you like it or not, it is driving this market. So to Geo and to other people say, yeah, I wish the damn breakers weren't here. I'm never going to the breaker meeting. That's one here I never know. Well, great. Don't. Leave it alone. But recognize if it wasn't there, you wouldn't have a bigger National. I guarantee you'd have a smaller National. You would. Because corporate sponsors wouldn't come to it. Like the Breakers, they sponsor parties and events. Whatnot had a big thing at Dave & Buster's. If that's not happening here, less money, less people, smaller show. And I know there are a lot of people who want that. I understand that. Why? Envy. Go back to envy. They don't like the things that have changed. They don't like the new rich people coming in and making stuff and doing this. Like, I'll be honest, dude. I sat there for years in the sports card world going, how is that idiot making that much money? It was envy. It was envy that kicked me out of my ass and go, Ziggy, go out there and make some money. So I went to something I love. I love breaking. Love sports card breaking. Last one I talk about is I didn't get to meet Professor Sports Card. I did see a couple people talk to him. What I can tell, though, is again, I just feel like you're not being real with your content, man. It seems your content is so hateful when you put your video together, which I think is ironic because you talk about how all these deals are set up, all these people are fake, all real fake content. You keep referring to these aren't card people in your videos. This is not a card person. I look at that as a label that people use to separate and divide. That's a card person. That's not a card person. That's a card person. That's not a card person. You know what I look at it? Hobbyist. Not a hobbyist. Could be a hobbyist. Maybe has a different hobby. Probably thinks my hobby's funny. But I don't judge them and say, not a card person. What's that not a card person doing behind the booth? Let me give you some context there. So in the last year, I've been working with Queens of Cards Breaks. One thing I've been doing is educating people who know nothing about sports cards. And let me say, it's an amazing thing. Like a lot of times they come in, they think they know about sports cards. Oh yeah, I know. My friend has Pokemon, blah, blah, blah. But then when they start seeing it and understanding it and seeing cards and differences and autographs and relics and values, boy, they become card people. Let me make my point here. You want to turn a non-card person into a card person? Money. And that's what does it, guys. That's what's driving them into this. So to sit there, Professor Sports Card, and judge people, oh, he's not even a card person. Like, I think he was picking on, I want to say it was Mac, one of the young breaker ladies for Backyard Breaks. How do you know she doesn't have a PC, dude? How do you know her brother isn't like a baseball player and has a massive baseball card collection? Or her father is a football player? Or maybe her mother is a basketball player? Like, why do we judge people just because we envy them? Envy them, guys. That's what it is, envy. So what's next? What's next for Ziggy? Well, I'm driving home. I will say I'm going to continue to evangelize breaking. I really think it's crazy how negative breakers are. I've spoken to a lot of people about that. I think most of them, again, agree. In fact, I'll go back to the content. When I have a one-on-one conversation, people, most of them, yeah, Ziggy, you're right. Breaking isn't bad. You know, you got breaking. I made a comment about breaking. Like, I don't want to call them fake, and I'm thinking about somebody specific, a really good content creator who did say after his video, he talked to some other people about it. He goes, yeah, Ziggy, you made some good points. I wish the breaking community would organize a little more, had a unified voice, or at least had a voice. Because right now, the only voice they do is they scream, let's go! And that's not the voice we need. I will say one last thing before I close this video. I did go speak to several breakers about a breaker association. It's going to be a lot of hard work. I'll put it that way. One breaker I spoke to looked at me like I was speaking Chinese, and I really think he thought I was crazy. I'm not going to say who it is because I hope, in the future he'll come around. I don't want to call him out and make him look like an idiot, but I will say I think that's short-sightedness. In response to Professor Sports Cart's comment about there's a lot of 20-somethings in breaking that he doesn't think have a future, what I will say is all those 20-somethings are learning business. I agree they might have some rude awakenings, but hey, that happens for a lot of 20-year-olds, regardless of what industry you're in, man. You could be a teacher at 20 years old and have a rude awakening coming in. So I'll leave it with this, guys. Really be real. Be who you are. Try not to judge. Try not to be envious. Recognize it when it happens. Have fun, man. I mean, this trip has made me realize I'm going to be more of who I am. Right? I'm going to call it the bullshit. I'm going to be a little more apologetic to people, a little more sensitive. I understand that sometimes I hurt people's feelings. I'm going to try to walk a little more delicately, but I'm not going to change who I am. If I see bullshit, I'm going to call bullshit, right? Like, I'll go back to Jeff Wilson. I like Jeff Wilson, but why in the hell did you make a physical repack? I don't understand it. Like, I'd love to hear on the board when you guys are building that. Somebody had to say at some point, should we make this virtual or should we make it physical? And someone had to argue physical, and I want to know why. I'd love to know why. I'm sure it's a good argument. Like, comment, subscribe, guys. Have a great day. I'll be driving back. Peace out. I got comments. Quiet Brazil. Which event do you think is better for someone who has never been to either Fanatics Fest or the National? Oh, great question. And you're a card person or you're a person in sports coming over? So to answer your question, if you're a card person, you've never been to either one, I would say the National is better than Fanatics Fest. Like if you've been in cards for years, you've never been to either one, I would say go to the National. It's fun. It's great. It's card focused. It's cards. If you're a sports person into cards, you're not deep into cards, but you love sports and you're into cards too, I'd say go to the Fanatics Fest. Another quick comment I'll make, thanks for reminding me, John, on this one. A big glaring difference between the Fanatics Fest and the National. And I tell you, this would hurt the National if they actually had to implement it. Fanatics Fest had security. And what I mean by that is they actually had bag security and physical security where you scanned for weapons, bombs, all that stuff that you had to physically go through and get secured before you walk to the Javits Center. That's probably a New York City requirement. Everything had to be, scrutinized. National here, there was absolutely none of that, dude. There was absolutely absolutely zero security. The only thing they were securing is they had a band on, dude. And let me be honest, you can make a band, dude. So there was zero security, in my opinion, getting in and out of the building, which I think is a glaring difference. They're also looking at the intake. They could not handle, if they had to run people do security, this thing would take 3 hours to get people in that building. I'm not kidding, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.